This is the voice of the patriot. My name Blakk Rasta. And here we don't criticize, but if we must criticize, we'll do it on one condition: to build and not to destroy. That is why we say we are in the service of God and country. This is the voice of the patriot. And from the newsreel, we always endeavor to keep it real. We are in the service of God and country. It's the voice of the people. And my name Blakk Rasta. Now we have a number of issues to look at, and I need you to come along. My brother, my sister, if you may permit me, let me start with this one from Graphic Online, the national communicator. Watch this. He says presidential candidate Nana Kwame Bediako alleges political parties behind recent protests. And I read it. Independent presidential candidate Nana Kwame Bediako has alleged that the recent demonstration organized by the Democracy Hub were orchestrated by one of the major political parties. All of these protests and demonstrations that have happened in this country in the past year or two were organized by one of the duopoly, he stated. Bediako reiterated his stance against supporting violent actions, emphasizing his desire for peace in the country. I don't support the youth protesting because I want peace in the country. If the youth of this country and the people of this nation have endured 32 to 40 years of political challenges and crisis and have managed to survive, why would they now turn to violence just to send a message and say they have had enough? So you see, when Blakk Rasta speaks, I think that you need to humble yourself and listen. Same way I humble myself when others speak. You will be able to read the meaning in the fine writing. Now this gentleman here came with a mask. He took off the mask and then we saw his face. Now it looks like the second mask has been taken off and we are seeing the real him. Arrogant, not ready to listen to anyone or tolerate anyone. He believes he has money, and once you have money, you have wisdom. This is his level of thinking. Very mediocre. Listen to Nana Kwame Bediako. Only a couple of years back, Nana Kwame Bediako was seen on tape supporting Occupy Julobi. Only last year, my brother, my sister, Occupy Julobi house, he was supporting it. All of a sudden, my brother, my sister, it is organized by political parties, the so-called duopoly. Well, maybe at the time he didn't know. Now he has come to know that all these demonstrations are organized by the duopoly. In other words, the duopoly is behind all these recent demonstrations. And by recent, he meant the past 2 years or the past year. Now let's get a little bit more detailed. Nana Kwame Bediako says he doesn't support violence. Of course, we all don't support violence. But he goes ahead to say he doesn't support protests. If you have been able to endure all these 32 years, all these 40 years of political hardship and corruption, why can't you endure it any further, but rather go on the streets to make noise and also to be violent? Of course, it's clear. Nobody supports the violence. But even in the eye of the Constitution, protests are very, very important. How many times do we have to wait till protests happen and then we get what we want or what we demand? At least a big chunk of what we demand. When you go to America, you go to England, where this gentleman here, Cheddar, claims he plies his trade or he's been to. Protests are the order of the day. Almost every month, you would find people protesting in one part of the country or the other. That is democracy. So if you have a man like this who tells you he doesn't believe in the youth going out there to demonstrate, all because we have endured hardship all these years and we must continue, you realize that this is not a guy who has enough knowledge of the system. True? May I get a little deeper? Does it really matter who is behind any protest? Or we have to look at the content of the protest? A gentleman walks up here. He organizes people and pushes them to come into a media general and protests on behalf of the workers here, Abiam and the rest of them, that their salaries should be increased. Mamiya's salary should be increased. Blakk Rasta's salary should be increased because all these people work so hard and bring home a lot of money. Therefore, it has to be reciprocated. We must have our salaries increased. Then I sit back and say, oh, because the gentleman belongs to a certain political party, I won't join this race. I think it is better to think about the cause. Is it a worthy cause? Does it really matter who is behind a worthy cause? Yeah, they are here and some are there fata. Is it important or is it necessary that the workers have a salary raise? And I just chose Media General, arbitrarily. My brother, my sister, this is the level of thinking of this guy. Probably if you go to his workplace, everybody is gagged. Take a trip to the businesses Cheddar owns. You will be shocked that the workers are probably gagged. They can't open their mouths and talk because he doesn't like protests. What he says is final. You have endured it all these years. You must continue to endure it. Of course, I repeat, we do not support violence in any form. We have condemned violence in all its forms, but we endorse protests. My brother, my sister, Cheddar every day has to remove yet another mask to show the true him, the arrogant, ignorant Pan-Africanist in quotes. I leave him here. Those of you who go around saying Cheddar, Cheddar, well, a lot of you are beginning to see exactly who he is. Very ignorant and at the same time a Pan-Africanist who does not even understand the concept of Pan-Africanism. And finally, this is what he's thinking. Your protests are not necessary. You have endured it all this while. Hey, just stay like that and continue. Oh my God. Hi! Any which way. My brother, my sister, here is the voice of the patriot. Now the next thing I want to look at, and this is very sensitive, but I still need to look at it. It's about Kofi Kinaata. Kofi Kinaata's accident saga. Vehicle involved belongs to Elembele MP. And I read. Now reports have indicated that the V8 Land Cruiser with vehicle registration number GR1779-24 belongs to Emmanuel Ama Kufibua, the member of parliament for Elembele constituency. Now this information was disclosed by the uncle of Lawrence Say, the young man who tragically died in the accident involving Kofi Kinaata. Now the vehicle recounted that the driver of the vehicle was the MP's chauffeur and that the car involved in the accident also belonged to the politician. Earlier, Kofi Kinaata stated that the vehicle was not his and was only sent to pick him up for the event. According to reports, the vehicle was intended to transport Kinaata and his entourage from Takrady to Nkrumah for the Nkrumah Fest. Now, the deceased uncle suggested that Kofi Kinaata is trying to shield the MP and protect his image at the expense of their son, Lawrence. Now, the driver involved in the accident is Amabua's driver and the vehicle as well. They said he's supposed to take care of all the expenses and not Kofi Kinaata. So we shouldn't escalate the news. I'm disappointed he claimed the motorbike rammed into the vehicle when it was he who overtook. I would have recorded a voice note and sent it out for people to know what really happened. I can't operate a phone properly, so I wasn't able to do that, the uncle said in an exclusive interview with Gossips 24. Kofi Kinaata is a gentleman. We have interviewed him on this show before. And me and Kofi Kinaata have a song coming out. Yeah, we have a beautiful song, which will be dropping soon. He's a gentleman I love. I have seen him rise. He and Samini had such a brilliant relationship. And I believe that relationship is still ongoing. He's been able to rise from the rubbles all the way to the position. My brother, me and Kofi Kinaata were supposed to perform at Nkrumah Fest. I arrived a day earlier. In fact, I drove myself all the way from Accra and went to Nkrumah in the Elembele constituency. My brother, at Nkrumah Fest, and please, this I am going to say so dispassionately. All the artists who performed at Nkrumah Fest, anytime the MC mentioned the names of the artists performing, Kofi Kinaata had the loudest applause. What we call a forward. A number of artists performed, including internationally based artists like Mayway. Mayway's name would be mentioned, there would be a huge applause. Blakk Rasta's name would be mentioned same way. Stonebwoy's name would be mentioned same way, and some other artists who played. But when Kofi Kinaata was mentioned, there was a thunderous applause that looked like Thor had slammed his hammer. Anytime Kofi Kinaata's name was mentioned, listen attentively, it was like Thor had slammed his hammer. There was thunder and lightning. The earth was about to open a gap and swallow everybody. So I asked myself, hey, is this gentleman that, popular? I did a small research and built a small dossier. He's been frequenting the area, courtesy the MP of the area, and his manager, who is supposed to be related to the MP of the area, Emmanuel Amabua. Yes. So the people are familiar with him. Moreover, he's from the Western region, the same region. And he speaks fluent Fanti, just like the people. My brother, my sister, Kofi Kinaata was the biggest star at Nkrumah Fest, despite all the controversies that, swallowed all these things. My brother, my sister, when I finished my performance and was waiting, I realized that time was running too fast. So I had to drive back to Accra. And then I decided to find out what was happening, because I had heard in the media that Kofi Kinaata was involved in an accident. He was safe, but a rider of a motorbike had been killed. Even though Kofi Kinaata later said that the person was in critical condition, we were told that the person died on the spot. But look at what Kofi Kinaata did. And he gained my respect so much, even more. The whole crowd was waiting for Kofi Kinaata. They were not even aware of any accident, except a few of us. And when Kofi Kinaata came on stage, he knew the whole crowd was waiting for him. The applause was thunderous. He picked up the microphone, and I told myself, oh my God, this gentleman is about to sing. I wish he would just ask for a 1 minute silence for the person involved in this accident who died. But Kofi Kinaata was not ready to say that the gentleman had died. He was still hopeful that the doctors will be able to revive him. So instead of saying that the gentleman had died, he said he was involved in an accident that saw the gentleman in critical condition. My brother, he told the whole crowd disappointedly, but to my excitement, that he would not want to be seen joyously performing whilst a victim of an accident that he was involved in was at the hospital. So he sang a very solemn, sorrowful song for just about 3-4 minutes, and he left the stage. He gained my respect. My brother, my sister, Kofi Kinaata refused to perform. He refused to promote himself and his music. He was traumatized. Unlike recently when we saw an actor, Lil Wayne, hit a child and kill the child in his rush to go watch a movie, and he was given so many excuses. At the end of the day, he still drove all the way to the launch of his movie whilst the victim was lying cold at the morgue. I am not trying to make any comparisons, but I'm just trying to let people see how the younger Kofi Kinaata entered into the spirit, wore the shoes of the family involved, even though he was the superstar of the event. I believe in that. Hey, today you go to a certain gathering and Blakk Rasta is the superstar there. Another crowd, it is Stone Boy. Another crowd is Shatawale, Kojo Entry, or Amanziba. So when I go to a gathering, I want to first and foremost find out my position, my status. Am I the #1 artist there? If I am not, I perform short and I leave. Like I did at Elembele. Kofi Kinaata gained my respect. Now let us look at the story itself. The uncle of the deceased, sadly, is saying that Kofi Kinaata shouldn't cover up for the MP. The car belonged to the MP, and the MP should pay everything. And that Kofi Kinaata shouldn't pay anything. In fact, it smacks of, I don't want to say what I want to say. Does it really matter who pays for the funeral expenses of the deceased? Are you more interested in the money that is supposed to be for the expenses, or you are interested in the culprit? The MP did not drive the car himself. It was his driver who was driving it. But you want the MP to come and show his face and say, it was my car. For that matter, I am responsible for that accident. For that matter, I am ready to pay everything. If this was a Muslim family, excuse my language, what I'm going to say is very sensitive, but it's important. An uncle of mine, some years back, was driving on the Brownhafer Road, and he hit a certain young man on a bicycle. I'm hiding all the details for obvious reasons. The young boy died, and people started running out to lynch him. He ran to the police station, reported himself, and the police helped him to stay in there and then protected him. Now, when the matter went down the following day or two, the driver decided to go to the family of the deceased. And when he met the mother and father, they were crying. He told them that he was responsible for the accident and that he was ready to pay for the funeral expenses. He wanted to know when the funeral would take place, and he was so sorry it happened, but he was ready to pay the funeral expenses. The family looked at him and said, we buried our son 1 hour after he died from the accident because we are Muslims. 2, there's nothing like funeral expenses. In fact, even the coffin was borrowed from the mosque. We put him in it, hurriedly covered it, and took him to the graveyard, buried him, and returned the coffin. In fact, we spent only 60 Ghana cedis buying the shroud, the white shroud that we used to cover him to bury. If that is what you want to pay, don't worry about it, because the family has dealt with it already. Why can't we be so humble in death Everybody wants to go in a casket made of gold. Some people want to be buried in cars. Some other people want to be kept in the fridge for 7 years before they are brought out and dressed in suit, and people run around them. Minubeko, yeah, Kwame, hey Kwame, and to say I know by me, hey, why Jamie say, yeah, Kwame, I mean the DBO, Minubeko. Some people even want to jump into the grave. Why can't we be so humble in death? Today, an uncle is talking about expenses. He's not even talking about the law to look at the real culprit so that some of these things can be punished if there is any culprit. No, he's looking at money. He has to pay for the coffin. He has to come and pay for all the appeteshi. He has to bring all the dancers there to come and dance. They have to buy a golden coffin. Yes, at the funeral, all the tents, all the musicians who are coming to dance there. Hey, if possible, Kofi Kinaata and his band should even come and play. Would it bring this person to life? Would it bring the young man to life? At this point, I want to shout out all Muslims who go home very humbly. I have always said it, Blakk Rasta will never die. But if I die one day, bury me like a Muslim. Don't bother to even ask whether I was Christian, Hindu. Just bury me like a Muslim. Borrow a coffin from the mosque. Put me inside. Say all the prayers. I love prayers. Remove me from the coffin. Put me inside the grave. Cover me up and take the coffin back to the mosque. Why do you want to dress me in suit? When I was alive, I never wore suit. Why would you want to put suit on me? There are people who have been suffering all their lives. Decent dress they can't wear. Let them die. They will bath them and give them the best dress ever, as if they were going for Christmas in hell. Be humble. What this uncle is saying, I am sad. I don't want to talk too much. I would end up saying things that would even hurt the family and hurt me more. Somebody has died. You are not talking about the death. You are not asking for investigations. You are not asking about things like this. You are only interested in a politician who you claim has a bag of money. He should come and pay for your funeral expenses. Oh, Jesus. I don't feel like talking anymore, I tell you, man. Yeah. Yes. I don't think I would like to talk anymore. My brother, my sister, it's been the wisdom, I beg your pardon, it's been the voice of the patron.
This